How Ukraine sought to deplete the Russians and prepare for a new offensive by continuing to fight for the small city, but at a high cost for both sides. The battle for Bakhmut was not just a fight for a city. It was a fight for the future of Ukraine and its sovereignty against Russia's aggression. For 9 months, Ukrainian forces resisted the relentless Russian onslaught, turning Bakhmut into a symbol of their defiance and determination. But this resistance came at a high price. The city was reduced to rubble, with thousands of civilians killed or displaced. The Ukrainian soldiers faced constant shelling, sniper fire, and attacks by Wagner mercenaries, who led the Russian assault. The casualties were mounting on both sides, with no end in sight. Ukraine's strategy was to exhaust the Russians and to buy time for its military to regroup and launch a counteroffensive. By holding on to Bakhmut, Ukraine hoped to prevent Russia from advancing further into the Donbass region and to inflict heavy losses on its best troops. Ukraine also sought international support and solidarity from its allies, especially the United States and the European Union. But Russia was determined to capture Bakhmut and to claim a symbolic victory for President Vladimir Putin. Bakhmut was seen as a stepping stone to the rest of the Donbass and a way to pressure Kiev into accepting Moscow's terms for peace. Russia also wanted to showcase its military might and to undermine Ukraine's credibility as a partner for the West. The battle for Bakhmut reached its climax in May 2023, when Russia claimed full control of the city after months of fierce fighting. But this claim was disputed by Ukraine, which said that fighting was still ongoing and that its forces had made gains on the city's flanks. The outcome of the battle remained uncertain, as both sides prepared for more clashes in the region. The battle for Bakhmut was a brutal and bloody demonstration of the stakes and challenges of the war in Ukraine. It showed the resilience and courage of the Ukrainian people, but also the devastation and suffering caused by the Russian invasion. It showed the importance and difficulty of finding a diplomatic solution, but also the risk and necessity of defending one's sovereignty and values. Russia's capture of Bakhmut was a symbolic but uncertain victory, as its troops faced setbacks and divisions on other fronts and the city was left in ruins. Bakhmut, an industrial town in East Ukraine, was the site of the longest and bloodiest battle in Russia's more than year-long invasion of its neighbor. The town was strategically important as it would allow Russia to threaten larger urban areas of Kramatorsk and Slavyansk if captured. But Ukraine sought to wear down Russian forces by forcing a protracted fight that turned into a national symbol of resistance. After months of intense shelling and fierce street fighting, Russia's Wagner mercenary group, led by Yevgeny Prigozhin, claimed to have captured the eastern bank of Bakhmut in May. Russia's defense ministry also said that the city's liberation had been completed. The news was hailed by President Vladimir Putin as a major battlefield victory and a boost for his flagging popularity at home. But Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky disputed Russia's claim and said that Bakhmut was only in their hearts. He said that there was nothing left in the city, just ruins and dead Russians. The reality was that Russia's control of Bakhmut was precarious and costly. The city was devastated by the war, with most of its buildings destroyed and its residents forced to flee or face dire conditions. The humanitarian situation was dire, with shortages of food, water, medicine, and electricity. The city also became a target for Ukrainian counterattacks, which exposed bitter divisions between the Kremlin's military leaders and Prigozhin. The Wagner chief complained that his troops were at risk of encirclement and accused Moscow of abandoning them. He also clashed with other Russian commanders over tactics and resources. Meanwhile, Ukraine launched a major offensive on other fronts, pushing back Russian forces and recapturing some territory. Ukraine also received more support from its Western allies, who increased their sanctions on Russia and provided more military aid and training. Zelensky also rallied support from world leaders at the G7 summit in Japan, where he met with President Joe Biden and other leaders. He vowed to continue fighting for Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Russia's capture of Bakhmut was a symbolic but uncertain victory, as it failed to secure a genuine advantage or a lasting peace. It also came at a high price for both sides, in terms of lives lost, infrastructure damaged, and relations strained. The war in Ukraine was far from over, and Bakhmut remained a contested and tragic city.